Stay curious. I'm ready.
We're at the end. We're not at the end yet. We're in the beginning. All right. Off the cuff. All right. It's so good to be back. We're back again. Off the Cuff
Stop.
podcast.
Stop. We're going to start again because my hair was jacked up and I didn't want to fix in my hair while you talk.
All right.
Yeah,
All right. We're back with the Off the Cuff podcast. I am AB, and this is my good friend, the neuro genius herself, Miss Joy Winchester. What's up, Joy?
Not much. Just loving life, living the dream.
Oh, man, you better believe it. You better believe it. Listen, before we get started, we want to say like, subscribe, and hit the bell and do all the things before we get started here today, because we want you to be notified when we're in the mix and when we got stuff going on. So we got a great subject today. We're going to get right into it. The subject matter is technology and youth. Are we leading them or losing them? Man, Joy, I remember growing up, and I don't know if you remember this because you're a lot younger than me, but I grew up in a time where it was like in the 80s where there was this cartoon that came on. Yes, I love cartoons, as you can probably tell behind me. I love cartoons and animation and all those kinds of things. There's this one cartoon called the Jetsons. And it was so interesting to me that the Jetsons kind of predicted a lot of the things that we have going on today, according to technology. I remember the Jetsons had what we know today is like a modern day cell phone. You remember they had a cell phone, they had cars that drove themselves. They had a flat screen. I even remember them having the first Zoom, like the flat screen. They would literally talk to each other on it, and so many other things. They had a robot that vacuumed the floor, so they had that already, and it was just so many things that they had that was awesome. So what does that have to do with technology and pertaining to us today? Well, it's interesting that technology is a great thing, and I look at most of the things that we use today as modern technology is stuff that we could really use and utilize. The only tough part is some stuff is not so good, especially when we're talking about the youth of today. There's some exposure that's not necessarily a good thing, especially when it takes the innocence, in my opinion, from the young people that we serve. So I guess today we have to talk a little bit and dig into technology, the good and the bad, even, and how we should teach our young people technology to use it in the right ways.
I was thinking about the Jetsons. I was thinking of everything else they had, the moving sidewalks, the music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't have that yet. We don't have
Yes, we
moving
do in the
sidewalks.
Atlanta airport.
We do, don't we? And yeah, I remember seeing a moving. Is that what it was? The moving sidewalk on that was on the Jetsons, man. And at the airport, they have the moving sidewalks at the airport. That's crazy.
You didn't tell me we were going to talk about the Jetsons, so my mind was going back to the Jetsons because it was one of my favorite cartoons,
Mm.
and I was around in the 80s. I think we are pretty close to the same age, but anyways, here's the deal. Here's something that you saw on the Jetsons that you don't see today.
Mm.
Technology was a tool. It didn't interfere with the relationships, right?
Mm.
They still they had to, because you remember they had to appeal to the kids of the 80s, right? So they still had the dad that would come home and he'd walk in the door and he'd veer through the living room, right? And Rosie, the robot, I believe was her name, would come and say, "Hello, Mr. Jetson." Right. Here's the deal. Dad didn't walk in the door on his cell phone and not speak to anyone. The kids weren't tied in their rooms for 6, 7 hours,
Mm.
right? Technology was a tool that enhanced the family experience. The robot cleaned so the mom could spend more time in the family. And I know I'm sounding old school and traditional, but here's the piece. With all that technology, it never interfered. In a good movie that counters what the Jetsons did to kind of see, like if you're saying Joy, you don't know what you're talking about. I may not, but to kind of see what I'm saying. The Disney movie Wall-E, right? Wall-E. Think about that. Technology in that movie blocked human connection. It blocked us from being active and enjoying life. We became in our own bubbles. We became tied in. We became self-centered. Does that make sense?
It
So
does.
again, you always amaze me. To bring up the Jetsons may sound kind of fun to you, but it's really interesting if you looked. They took a lot of the technology we have in 2025 with the same values of connection that you and I and a lot of people from the 80s, we love our gen, a lot of people from the 80s grew up with. Technology never interfered. Technology was a tool to enhance. Disney took Wally and said, listen, technology is going to interfere and take you away from the parts of life you should be noticing. You see what I'm saying? That's the difference. There, when you look at the Jetsons, you had an actively engaged father. They sat down to dinner as a family, right? Think about that. Yeah, the boss called into the house on the big screen for the Zoom meetings and all that. But how many times was that boss very attuned into George's life? George had a say. George, yeah, he was always trying to not be in trouble by his boss. But think about that. You had the daughter and the son. Mom and dad were involved. They weren't, they weren't on there. Let's pause there. They had a dog too named Astro. They weren't on their cell phones. They weren't on their cell phones, totally blocked from each other.
Well, though, Joy, the thing about it, you brought cell phones up, and I'm glad because let's just talk about cell phones specifically as a part of technology today. Um, cell phone being one technology, and we can also say an extreme technology. It's something that we use every day, all the time, and it's modern, but it's right there with us all the time. I believe when we're dealing with youth, specifically teens and preteens, that the misconception is that they're lazy. They're on their phones because they're lazy. I don't think that they're on their phones because they're lazy. I think they're glued to their phones because the digital world gives them something. I think it gives them three things. It gives them connection, it gives them validation, and it gives them an instant escape. And when I say connection, it gives them that feeling. It makes them feel seen. When I say validation, it makes them feel good in the moment. Unfortunately, it's fast, but it never has that relationship building confidence type thing. It doesn't really sustain that confidence. But when it comes to the escape that it gives them, it hides the pain, but it weakens their strength to have communication in the future or tomorrow or whatever. So I think that it does fulfill something for them, but at the same time, if it's not guided by hopefully the adults, the mentors, those in their lives who desire the best for them, then it could be easily used in the wrong ways.
Definitely. And there's so much new science out that's like it rots your brain and it's creating short attention spans. And I get it. I mean, we're afraid of it. Chat
Mhm.
GPT is writing papers for kids and it's thinking things through, and kids are using Chat GPT for therapy. And now they've even created a Chat GPT for teachers
Mm.
that specifically targets teachers. And my fear as someone who does behaviors is that if I'm a teacher in Birmingham, Alabama, and I have a child in my classroom diagnosed ADD or autism, ODD, I'm going to go on ChatGPT and say, what are some strategies I can use for a child who is defiant and rude? And see, anything I say into ChatGPT is going to be echoed back to me.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I'm fine with using ChatGPT as a tool, but we have to remember It is programmed to make us come back to it, which means make it engaging. And how do you engage with people? You agree with them. So this is where it is an issue. Why this is an issue from our youth? Guess what? They go into Chat GPT and type in, I'm so mad at my mom. She doesn't understand I'm 16 and I shouldn't have a curfew, blah, blah, blah. And Chat GPT wants to engage.
Hmm. Hmm.
And they're going to say, you're right.
Yeah.
You must feel so restricted. You
Yeah.
must feel smothered. And then suddenly I now have AI validating these feelings that every teenager has, that you
Hmm.
and I have both had. We just didn't speak them out loud, right? But we've all had it. And now I'm being validated
Mm.
because AI wants me to keep engaging.
Right. Right.
This means I never get used to having uncomfortable conversations.
Mm.
No one ever tells me, hey, Joy, it sucks to be 16. I don't know about you, Anthony, but I'm 50. When I watch Little Mermaid now, I think Ariel needs to be grounded for life. You were told not to go to the surface. Sit your butt down. With you. This is why you lost your voice. You went with the sea witch. Dirty Dancing? Have you lost your ever loving mind? That man's 40. Go sit down, baby. You are in the corner. Right? So when we're 50, I went a little off. But it's true. When we're 50, we look back and we see things through a wise lens.
Absolutely.
AI can make you feel smarter than you are.
Right. Ultimately, when it comes to technology, we have the responsibility as the adults and the mentors to teach them the purpose of technology. Um,
Right.
we may not be able to teach them how to utilize technology, but we can influence them using it in a positive way. I mean, my sons can operate stuff just like that, like it's nothing, man. I have to ask them to be able to use my own devices, and I'm the one that pays for the stuff. But technology and electronics and all that kind of stuff, we have to be real as adults to know that technology is only going to get more and more extreme. It's only going to become more and more normalized. I grew up in a world where we had telephones that had this big wire on the end of them, and you had to wind it up. My sons grew up in a world where you don't even press a button. It's literally there is no cord and never was a cord. There is no antenna and never was an antenna. Their worlds are filled with a different type of, I grew up in, what is it? We had pen pals, and my sons have
Oh,
pay pals, You would literally write a letter. For those who don't know what pen pals are, you would write a letter, put 50 stamps on it, and send it to another country and wait and pray and hope that 3 months later you will receive a response from someone on another, it seemed like another planet. But it's a different world. Now my sons can pick up a phone and literally text someone on the other side of the earth, and they're communicating within minutes.
mhm.
And as big as the world is, technology sometimes makes the world seem so much smaller. You have more access. You get things quicker. My sons can literally get on the internet and say, I want this, and then tomorrow it's in a box on my front porch. So I'm not making technology, I don't want to demonize anything. I do want us as the adults, as the parents, as the mentors, to understand our place in this whole thing, to make sure that our job hasn't changed. Keep them safe, keep them informed, and make sure that the greater influence is the connection that we have with them rather than the technology that they're dealing with.
Hey, you got a minute? Because that's all the average American has is 1 minute. Our attention spans are so short that we really don't have time to focus on anything else. But here's what's crazy. We know more about how our cell phones work than our brains work. But who has time to dive deep into neuroscience? You do. 1 minute a day. Dive in. Just, hey, you got a minute. Neuro Minutes to Microdose Neuroscience. Grab a copy. Change your life 1 minute a day.
And go and get the book. It's awesome.
I think that's the piece, is that we have to not fear it and teach people how to use it. One of my
Absolutely.
favorite things to tell Chat GPT is, tell me how I'm wrong.
Mhm.
Challenge me. Explain this to me as someone who, you know, disagrees with me 100%. And you can tell it almost hates to do that. But that's the piece is put your cell phones down. You
Mhm.
know, we all know they're not good for us. The
Right.
video games, we know why our kids like to play them. But have them earn their time. We've talked about this. So, in other words, say, how much time do you think you get a week on technology? 20 hours? Phenomenal. Use them however you want, but when you use those 20 hours, you're done. Have them budget that. Um, because we used to teach kids how to budget money, and we still do. But now time is your most valuable asset. I hear people all the time say, Joy, I just don't have time. I just don't have time. Joy, I don't have time to work out. I don't have time to meal prep. I don't have time to read. What we find is if you really look, you do have time. So whenever I say I don't have time to, I change it in my mind to, it's not a priority to.
Right. Right.
Because then what I found is there's lots of time. It's just I've wasted it on TikTok or Facebook Reels or Instagram or something crazy instead of using it to benefit where I want to go in life. It is causing, like you said, a distraction from life. And
Right.
I don't want to be distracted from life. You only get one life to live, and not like my life is 100% great. But let's be real. We learn as much from the bad as we do from the good. So
True.
sometimes sitting in the dark, makes the light brighter. There's something to be said for that. We can grow through everything. So every time we talk about is technology in this piece, I don't unlike you. I don't want to say we throw it away because you can't. You
Right.
cannot function in this world. My daughter decided she wanted a flip phone. She's 24. She said, I'm wasting too much time. I want a flip phone. Within 2 weeks, she was back to an iPhone because emails, work schedule, communication, Zoom meetings, but she could do in her car on her phone, right? She needed the internet in her pocket to figure out how to get from point A to point B. She drove somewhere and they were closed. GPS would have told her that if she put that
Right.
address in, right? I mean, where we are now, you have to use it, but
Yeah.
use it smart.
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
think that's what we have to teach our kids, right? We have to teach them how to be smart with it. The problem is most adults are struggling with this right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If
That's
we're
where
real with ourselves, we're all challenged with where technology is right now. And we are sometimes fearful. We're excited, but sometimes fearful on where it's going. If it's here now, my goodness, where will it be on tomorrow? How will we monitor the young people we serve tomorrow because they're so much more intelligent than we are when it comes to this kind of stuff? How do we help them make better decisions? I think that the biggest thing, Joy, is not just trying to stay up on everything, but to make sure that it goes right back to what we discuss all the time, which is the power of relationship and connection, and teaching them that our relationship and our purpose together is so much better than an electronic notification that they'll ever get on a cell phone or on a laptop or any other device that they have today.
one more thing I think we have to look at
Mhm.
that I see a lot in challenging behavior, working with kids with behaviors. This other thing that we have to watch. Technology is allowing our children of all ages to access materials that their mind can process, but their hearts are not ready for.
Yeah,
And we talk about parental guidance, we talk about parental controls. Look, at the end of the day, they can get around them. We all know this. But now we're seeing kids who have seen things online, read things online that in the past would not have been accessible to them.
right.
They can watch YouTube videos and they can watch little short things that may not be appropriate for kids, but they have access to them. It is what it is. Um, that is, I worry about that. I worry about when our kids' brains, like you said, they're so intelligent, but at the end of the day, that soul, that heart is still a kid. That
Yeah,
child may be 8 years old and be able to tell you things that we never knew. But at the end of the day, they're still 8 with the conscience and the morals and the ethics of an 8-year-old. They're still 16, right? We were just talking about adolescence all the way up to 32. And I'm just saying, the internet allows for rapid brain development, but forgets the child's heart and soul. And I think sometimes they are accessing things they aren't emotionally ready for, which propels them into some reactive states.
And I think that that has a has the ability to place another link in what I call the trauma chain.
Yes.
Something that they are too afraid at this point to discuss with their parents, or
Yep.
maybe too afraid to discuss with anyone but their friends who also are going through the same things at the same time. And that can be very dangerous for them in the present as well as in the future. So it's all about those needs of the young person that we are serving on a daily basis, or that we're serving in general. So, Joy, that brings us to a great talk. That was really good. I learned so much. I can't wait for you to start talking about the gamma rays and all that stuff that cell phones and laptops and stuff let off. I know you know a lot about it, so we'll talk about that another time. But we do need to.
I'll have to bring my full hat on those days.
Oh, you got it. You got it. You got it. You got it. Hey, I think we're at the end of the show, though, and I hope that you guys got something out of that. Again, make sure you like, subscribe, check us out, and so that you'll know when we're doing things on here. Go ahead and leave a comment or something if you would like. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your thoughts on what we just discussed. And if you have something to add in addition, go ahead and add that too, because we're here to help. Any little bit helps, any little bit counts. So that's what it's all about. And until next time, remember to be kind
Be curious.
and keep showing up. That's our show. Thanks for being here. I wrote a book. Go check it out. Now, the book is called How to Eat an Elephant, and the old adage, of course, is one bite at a time. It's a book about young people and how to work with youth of today, but it's more about you, the adult, the person that cares for the young person, the advocate, the person that works with young people all the time. I want you to check it out.
Finally, a book written by someone who's walked the walk and not only talks the talk. Real talk. Deuces.